The late afternoon sun spread across Brookhaven Park, soft and gold, children's laughter tangled with the rustle of leaves, parents talking in low tones. Claire Mercer stood by the playground fence, coffee cooling in her hand, her eyes fixed on the small boy wobbling down the slide. Theo's laugh, high, bubbling, innocent, was the only sound that ever made her forget the heaviness in her chest. "Good job, buddy," she called, her smile genuine for him, even if it never reached all the way to her eyes. Theo's sneakers hit the mulch, and he bolted toward the sandbox. The world shrank to that moment until she heard it. A voice behind her. Low, familiar, threaded with disbelief. Claire, her body froze. Every instinct went tight. She didn't turn immediately, afraid that if she did, he'd vanish, and she'd prove herself insane for even hearing him. But the second time he said her name, softer, closer, she knew she wasn't imagining it. She turned. Ethan Wood stood a few yards away, a navy suit jacket slung over one arm, sleeves rolled up, the same impossible steadiness in his dark eyes that once made her feel safe. His hair was shorter now, neater, but the sight of him still hit like impact, clean and irreversible. Her throat closed. Ethan. He looked like someone trying to process a ghost. "I can't believe you broke off," shaking his head as though reassembling time. "It's been what? 4 years? Almost 5? She said quietly. He blinked. 5. The words seemed to sting him. His gaze flicked past her too, the small boy now digging in the sandbox, and lingered a second too long. Claire shifted, her instinct to shield Theo rising like muscle memory. "You're in Brookhaven?" "I had a meeting downtown," he said, still watching the child. "I almost didn't stop here. I used to come here after the office closed." He looked back at her, voice lowering. "Didn't think I'd see you again, ever." Her fingers tightened around the coffee cup until it buckled. "Neither did I." The air between them thickened, 5 years of silence pressing down. Theo ran toward her, holding up a red plastic truck. "Mommy, look what I found." Ethan's gaze snapped to the boy again. Really looking this time? Claire saw it, the quick flash of confusion giving way to something sharper. The same hazel green eyes, the same half dimple when he grinned. Her stomach turned cold. "This is your son?" Ethan asked, her voice almost didn't come out. "Yes." Theo looked up at the stranger with wide, curious eyes. Ethan crouched automatically, a natural gesture he didn't even think through. "Hey, buddy," Theo giggled. "You sound like my sweetheart," Claire interrupted, her tone to brisk. "Go play for a bit, okay?" Theo, unfazed, trotted back to the sandbox. Ethan stood slowly. His expression had shifted from surprise to calculation, the way it used to when he was about to walk into a high-stakes negotiation. "He's what, 3, 4? He blinked. The math did itself. Silence bled into the space between them, louder than shouting. "You didn't tell me?" His voice was steady, but the edge in it was surgical. "There wasn't a way to," she said, barely above a whisper. "There's always a way, Claire. You just didn't Want me to know?" A gust of wind caught her hair. She didn't look up. "You wouldn't have believed me." He gave a short, incredulous laugh. "You think that's your call to make?" Her pulse drummed in her ears. "You made your choice first. Ethan, you left. You made it clear that I didn't belong in your world anymore." For a moment, his composure cracked. "You vanished. No calls, no note, nothing." "I had to." He took a step closer, the distance collapsing between them. "You had my child. You had my son, and you disappeared." Theo's laugh echoed again from the sandbox. Ethan's jaw flexed as he turned toward the sound, as if realizing the gravity of those words for the first time. Claire could see the storm. Behind his restraint, every suppressed emotion stacked behind a wall he'd built since the day they broke apart. Flashback. 5 years earlier, downtown Chicago. She was 26, working long shifts at a hospital admin desk, rushing between deadlines and exhaustion. He had come in furious about a billing error for his father's cardiac surgery. She'd apologized, fixed the file, and somehow they'd ended up at the coffee stand downstairs. He'd made her laugh when she hadn't laughed in weeks. One conversation became 10. 10 became something that scared her with its depth. He used to call her his calm. She used to believe it would last. Until his father's company, his family's empire, decided she wasn't suitable. Until she overheard the conversation in the office hallway. his mother's voice sharp and clear. She's after your money, Ethan. Don't make a fool of yourself. The next morning, she'd packed and left. Flashback fades. I thought you'd moved on, she said, eyes fixed on Theo. I tried, he admitted. Didn't work. His tone cracked once, then steadied. You should have told me. It wasn't safe to. Safe? He repeated, disbelief rising. You think I'd ever hurt you? She turned to him finally. Not you. But your world did. The words hit him harder than he expected. He fell quiet, following her gaze to the boy in the sandbox. Theo had begun talking to another child, the sun catching in his hair, lighting it gold brown, the same shade Ethan used to see on his pillow in the mornings. Does he? No, Ethan asked. No. The faintest nod. He was absorbing it like a man trying to stand upright in heavy rain. What are you going to tell him? I haven't decided. You don't get to decide alone anymore. Her voice trembled. You think you can just walk back in after 5 years? I don't think, he said flatly. I know I have to. She looked down, tears burning her throat. He doesn't know you. You're a stranger to him. Ethan's reply came low and final. Then, I'll fix that. She wanted to say no, to stop him. But Theo came running again, arms full of sand. He dropped it proudly at Ethan's shoes. Look, Dada, he said, the word hung between them like a detonator. Ethan froze. Claire's world tilted. Theo blinked up, oblivious, smiling at his own invention. But Ethan's expression broke open shock first, then something deeper roar, older than anger. He knelt, voice unsteady. What did you call me? Theo, delighted by the attention, repeated it. Dada. Claire stepped forward, her voice cracking. Theo, sweetheart, he's not. Ethan stood before she could finish. Don't, he said hoarsely. Don't you dare! The old restraint was gone now, the professional polish stripped bare. His eyes shone with betrayal and heartbreak all at once. How long were you going to keep pretending? Her lips parted, but no sound came. She had no answer left that would make sense. Theo tugged at her sleeve, sensing something wrong. His small face puzzled. Mommy! She bent and kissed his hair, whispering something soft she couldn't hear herself say. Ethan stepped back, as if needing space to breathe. The late sun threw long shadows across the park, and the laughter around them blurred into white noise. He looked at her one last time, stunned, gutted, trembling with the effort to keep control. That's my son, he said quietly. Isn't he? She met his eyes. Silence was its own confession. He exhaled once, shaky. You should have told me. Claire! Then he turned and walked toward the parking lot, shoulders rigid, leaving her and the boys standing in the dying light. Claire held Theo close, her body shaking. The word Dada still echoed in the air like something she couldn't undo. Ethan hadn't called. Not that she expected him to. The silence of the next few days was its own kind of storm. Claire tried to keep their rhythm normal preschool, work at the clinic, grocery runs, but she caught herself flinching every time her phone buzzed. She told herself he'd go back to Chicago, file the moment away like an unpleasant meeting. And that would be that. It wasn't. On Friday morning, she was packing Theo's lunch when the doorbell rang. Through the window, she saw the black Range Rover idling at the curb. Her pulse stumbled. Ethan stood on her porch, crisp gray shirt, dark slacks, hands in his pockets, as if he'd been there for hours debating whether to knock. She opened the door halfway. You shouldn't be here. He looked past her, his gaze landing on the stack of blocks scattered across the living room floor. We need to talk. We already did. Not like that. Ethan. He held up a hand. You can hate me all you want, but I'm not leaving again. The quiet conviction in his voice undid her more than shouting would have. She stepped aside, wordless. Inside, he scanned the room, the toys, the family photos on the shelf, the life he'd never been part of. His eyes lingered on a framed picture of Theo covered in birthday cake frosting, and something in his expression softened. You kept everything, he murmured. I kept him safe. He turned, the faintest trace of hurt there. From me? From your family. From the mess that came with your name. He let that sit a moment. You think I couldn't protect you from them? I think they would have destroyed me to get to you. Theo appeared then, sleepy-eyed, dragging his blanket. Mommy? Who's that? Ethan crouched to meet his gaze. Careful, almost reverent. Hey, buddy, remember me from the park? Theo nodded slowly. You came back. Ethan smiled, but his voice wavered. Yeah, I came back. Claire stood frozen, watching the impossible unfold. The way Ethan's hand hesitated before ruffling Theo's hair. How Ellie Theo leaned toward him without fear. Something in her chest ached so deeply it almost felt like relief. After breakfast, Ethan asked, "Can I take you both somewhere?" Just for a few hours. She wanted to say no, but Theo was already tugging on his shoes, thrilled at the idea. They ended up at the aquarium downtown. Theo pressed his palms against the glass, squealing at the stingray. Ethan walked beside him, patient, answering questions, buying him a plush shark he wouldn't let go of. Watching them together felt like standing outside her own life, beautiful, unbearable, and entirely real. At lunch, Ethan sat across from her, his voice low. "He's incredible." "I know. You did this alone." She nodded. There wasn't another choice. There was me. She met his eyes. "You weren't an option, Ethan." "Not back then." He leaned back, exhaling. "Because my mother called you." Her chest tightened. "You knew?" "I found out later. She admitted it after you left." His jaw hardened. "I tore the company apart looking for you. Changed cities. Checked hospitals. But I didn't know about him." "I didn't want you dragged into it," she said softly. "You had too much to lose." "None of it means anything compared to him." The simplicity of that truth undid her. She looked away, blinking fast. "You think saying that fixes 5 years?" "No," he said, "but I'm here now, and I'm not leaving him fatherless." For once, she didn't argue. In the days that followed, Ethan stayed. Not in her house. He respected that boundary, but close enough that Theo saw him daily. He picked Theo up from preschool, learned his bedtime stories, even helped fix the wobbly railing on the porch. Claire watched from the window more often than she'd admit, feeling a slow shift inside her she didn't know how to name. One night, after Theo fell asleep, Ethan lingered on the doorstep. "You're exhausted," he said. "Single motherhood isn't exactly restful." He smiled faintly. "You never did know how to ask for help." She crossed her arms. "And you never did stop trying to save people." The banter slipped out naturally, and for a moment it felt like the old days, easy, sharp, warm underneath. He stepped closer. "You know what's strange? You look exactly like I remember, but quieter, like you learned to hide all the light that used to spill out of you." She swallowed. "You don't get to talk like that anymore." "Maybe not." He hesitated. "But I still mean it." She didn't answer. He left, the night air carrying his scent long after he was gone. A week later, Theo got sick. Nothing serious, just a fever that spiked too fast. Ethan showed up within minutes of her text, hair tousled, still in his suit from work. He held Theo while she got the medicine, his voice low and steady as he hummed an old tune she remembered from years ago. Theo's small hand clutched his collar until he fell asleep. Watching them together stripped her defenses bare. When Ethan looked up, something in his eyes made her step back, afraid of the force of it. "You really thought I'd be like my parents," he said quietly. "I had proof. They hurt us both, Claire. I won't let them again. Don't promise things you can't control." He stood, still holding Theo. "This isn't control. It's choice." Later that night, after Ethan carried Theo to bed, they sat in the dim living room, silence heavy between them. "Why didn't you ever reach out?" he asked finally. She stared at the mug in her hands. "Because every time I almost did, I heard your mother's voice again. She said I'd ruin you, that you'd resent me. And part of me believed her." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You never ruined anything. You were the only thing that made any of it make sense." Her throat tightened. "You don't mean that." He looked at her like he'd never stopped meaning it. "I still love you, Claire." The words landed with unbearable weight. She felt them before she believed them. But before she could respond, Theo stirred in the other room, crying softly in his sleep. She stood immediately, the moment shattering. "I should check on him." He nodded, jaw tense. "We'll finish this later." But they didn't. Days passed, full of half-spoken things. They found small peace and shared routines, making pancakes, walking Theo to school, sitting on the porch after dark. It was domestic, fragile, almost normal. The tension between them shifted from hostility to quiet tenderness neither dared name. Then one evening, as they watched Theo chase fireflies in the yard, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning. "Who is it?" she asked. "My mother." Claire froze. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing yet." "But she knows I found you." The color drained from her face. "Ethan." He cut her off gently. "I won't let her near him." I swear. "You think she'll let you just walk away from her plans?" "From the company. If it comes to a choice between that and my family, it's not a hard decision." She wanted to believe him, but the fear was old, bone deep. That night, she found him sitting on the porch steps after putting Theo to bed. Moonlight caught in his hair. She sat beside him without a word. "Do you ever think," he said after a long silence, "about what we lost?" "Every day. I used to picture you happy. Somewhere far away, better off without me. Turns out, I just wanted to believe I didn't destroy us." She looked at him, seeing for the first time not the man who'd hurt her, but the man who'd been hurt too. "Maybe we both destroyed us," she said. He nodded slowly. "Then, maybe we both get to rebuild." Before she could answer, Theo's voice called from inside, sleepy and small. "Mommy?" Sheesh, dude. "I should go." He caught her wrist gently, his voice raw. "Don't run this time." She hesitated, the old reflex to flee battling something new hope, dangerous and unfamiliar. "I'm not running," she whispered. "I'm just scared." "So am I." The porch light flickered above them, throwing shadows across his face. "Tomorrow," he said. "Let's talk tomorrow." "Clearly talk." She nodded, unable to trust her voice. Inside, as she tucked Theo in, she caught her reflection in the window-tired eyes, but softer somehow. Through the glass, she saw Ethan still sitting outside, staring into the dark as if trying to see the future. She whispered to the sleeping boy, "Your father's trying, baby. I don't know if I can trust it yet. But he's trying." Outside, the wind moved through the trees, carrying the faint sound of his car door closing. The next morning would bring questions. Maybe confrontation, maybe a miracle. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel entirely alone. The next morning began like calm before a break in weather. Sunlight fell through the curtains, catching the quiet rhythm of Theo's footsteps as he padded to the kitchen in his pajamas. Claire poured cereal, her movements automatic, but her mind elsewhere on Ethan's words, on his mother's call, on what could come next. By noon, she hadn't heard from him. It should have been a relief. Instead, the silence felt heavy, loaded. She was about to call when a knock came at the door. Not his knock too sharp, too purposeful. A woman stood there, polished, elegant, the kind of composed power Claire remembered too well. "Claire Mercer," she said smoothly. "I'm Lillian Ward." Claire's chest tightened. "You shouldn't be here." Lillian's smile didn't reach her eyes. "My son seems to think he's building a new life. I needed to see what kind of woman convinced him of that." Claire's voice went cold. "He's not here." "Oh, I know. He's at the office, probably preparing to disappoint me again." Lillian glanced toward the living room, her gaze landing on the toys scattered on the rug. "And this must be your son." Theo peeked from behind the couch. Claire's instinct flared. She moved subtly in front of him. "Please, leave." Lillian studied her as though she were a puzzle to be solved. "I warned you once to walk away. I assumed you'd listened. Clearly, I was mistaken. Whatever threat you think works on me doesn't anymore." The older woman's voice lowered, silk over steel. "If you think I'll allow my grandson to be raised outside our family," Claire cut her off, "your son's decisions aren't yours to make." The brief flash of temper in Lillian's eyes said enough. "You really believe you can keep him?" "I'm not keeping him. He's where he belongs with me." Lillian stepped closer, her perfume sharp, expensive, cold. "You may have kept Ethan blind once. It won't happen again." When she left the house, felt smaller, airless. Claire locked the door, gathered Theo into her arms, holding him tighter than she meant to. That evening, Ethan arrived, face drawn, tie loosened. "She came, didn't she?" "Yes," he swore under his breath, pacing the room. "I told her to stay out of this. She doesn't listen to anyone. I'll make her listen." She shook her head. Don't make promises you can't keep. You know what she's capable of? I know what I'm capable of now. He turned toward her, the fury in his eyes, no longer aimed at her, but at the years they'd both lost. I spent half my life doing what they wanted. I'm done. Theo peeked in from the hallway, clutching his toy shark. Daddy? Ethan froze, the word hitting him with quiet force. Claire's throat caught. She hadn't corrected it this time, hadn't been able to. He crouched, opening his arms. Theo ran into them without hesitation. Ethan closed his eyes, as though the small body in his arms anchored him. Hey, buddy, I missed you today. Claire looked away, tears burning behind her eyes. When he stood again, his voice was softer. She's already called a lawyer, he said. The words dropped like stone. For custody. She thinks money and a name can erase everything. But I'm not giving her the chance. What are you saying? I'm saying I want custody with you. Joint. Permanently. No more hiding. She stared at him. You'd go against your family for this. He met her eyes. For both of you. Every time. The next days blurred into motion. Meetings, legal calls, long nights of whispered planning after Theo fell asleep. Ethan started the formal process paperwork. Filings, but it wasn't just legal defense. It was him finally standing between her and the storm that once broke her. One night, after Theo was in bed, she found him sitting at the dining table, documents spread out, his tie loose, exhaustion etched across his face. You don't have to fix this alone, she said quietly. He looked up. You said that once when my father got sick. I didn't listen then. I'm listening now. She moved closer, her hand resting on the table near his. You've changed. I had to. Losing you did that. For a long moment, they didn't speak. The air between them wasn't charged anymore. It was raw, honest. You know, she said, voice low. The night I left, I almost told you I was pregnant. But then your mother called. She said she'd ruin me, and I believed her. I thought if I disappeared, you'd be free. He leaned forward, voice breaking. I wasn't free. I was empty. Something in her cracked then. She reached for his hand, and he didn't hesitate this time. The following morning brought confrontation. Lillian showed up again, this time at Ethan's downtown office. Claire had gone to meet him there after signing school forms for Theo. The older woman's voice carried through the hallway even before Claire stepped inside. You think you can throw away everything your father built? Ethan stood his ground. You threw it away the moment you decided who I could love. You'll regret this. She'd drain you dry and disappear again. Claire stepped through the doorway, calm but resolute. I didn't come here to fight you, Mrs. Ward. I came to tell you this isn't about you anymore. Lillian turned, fury cutting through her composure. You don't belong in this family. I never wanted to. I only wanted him. For once, Lillian faltered just a flicker, but enough. Ethan took that moment, his tone even but final. If you push this, you'll lose me completely. If you step back, maybe one day you meet your grandson. It's your choice. The silence that followed was heavy and decisive. Lillian turned, chin high, and left without another word. Afterward, Claire let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She'd never forgive you. I don't need her forgiveness, he said. I just need you. For the first time, she didn't look away. You already have me. You just didn't know it. Weeks passed. The noise of lawyers and family drama faded. Life settled into something that felt startlingly normal. On a Saturday morning, they took Theo back to Brookhaven Park, the same place where it all began. The sun was high, the air warm, and for the first time in years, Claire didn't feel the weight of waiting for something to go wrong. Theo was racing from swing to slide when Ethan caught her hand. You ever think we'd get back here? Not once, she admitted. And yet, we did. He studied her, eyes soft. I kept replaying that moment in the park, the way he called me Dada. I was angry then. Now, it just feels like fate didn't wait for us to get it right. She smiled faintly. Maybe he just knew before we did. Ethan pulled her closer, his voice low enough for only her to hear. I want him to grow up knowing we fought to be a family, not that we stumbled into it. He already does. Theo ran up, holding his toy shark aloft. Look, Daddy, he can fly. Ethan laughed, catching him mid-run, spinning him in the air. Claire watched, the laughter echoing against sunlight, the picture so bright it almost hurt. When Ethan set Theo down, he looked back at her with the kind of expression that didn't need words, something steady. Rebuilt from ashes. Later, sitting on the grass, Theo asleep between them, Claire whispered, "I used to dream about what it would be like if you found us, and it never felt like this." He traced the edge of her hand with his thumb. "Better or worse?" She looked at him, sunlight washing across both of them. "Real? Finally, real?" He leaned in. Not a rush. Not possession, just quiet certainty. The kiss they shared wasn't about reclaiming what was lost. It was about everything they'd survived to reach it. When they pulled apart, Theo stirred, mumbling in his sleep. "Mommy? Daddy?" Claire smiled, tears in her eyes. "He says it so easily?" Ethan's voice was steady. "So should we." She took his hand, fingers threading through his. "Then say it." "I love you," he said simply. No more lost years. No more silence. Her voice shook, but her answer didn't. "I love you too." The park around them carried the sound of distant laughter, the kind of ordinary happiness she used to envy. For the first time, it belonged to her. Months later, a small photograph would sit framed on their mantel, Theo between them. Sand still on his shoes, sunlight spilling over his grin. Underneath it, a single line Claire had written on a torn scrap of paper, tucked beneath the frame like a vow. Love doesn't return to the past. It builds something new from what survived. And it had asterisk. Subscribe for more gripping, second chance romances where love defies time, secrets break hearts, and fate gives them one last shot to make things right.